I myself am Dickens, Network Services Manager at Pepperdine School of Law. You'll soon hear from Frey. William is if you like, from Yale. And we kind of got our two topics put together. So on the one we abbreviate some of the things I have. Which means I'll only be half as boring as I was going to be before. You'll all appreciate that. What I was going to talk about a little bit was system auditing and why you should do it and what you should do. I have a little handout there to hopefully be helpful. There's I have to make sure I have my own copy of the handout available from my Google. I know those of you who are those responsible for dark rooms full of blinking lights, you know who you are. And I know you because I too am like you, and I have no time. So why then audit? Possibly because you don't have time not to audit. Possibly because you have reasons that are more important than whatever you are spending your time on to audit. Most of us spend our time as system administrators trying to improve our network services, sort of like a nutrition consultant improves your health through diet. You have firewalls, antivirus systems, and those you spend time configuring and working on your boxes. In an attempt to keep things bad from happening. However, we all know that bad things do happen. For those of us who live in the Windows world, you know, here at CALI there's an awful lot of proponents for Linux, but you know, they're not so far off of the same sorts of problems. I'm going to talk mostly about Windows stuff here, though, because that's my personal experience. You know that pretty much no matter what you do, someone's going to find something that's a problem with your machine before you find out it's a problem with your machine. And then you have to shift modes. You have to shift modes from nutrition consultant to ER doctor. And I'm afraid your firewall and your antivirus software are going to help you there. Because you have to diagnose your box. You have to figure out what went wrong, when it went wrong, and who caused it to go wrong. And you're not going to be able to do any of that sort of thing if you don't have any logs. It's just not, you're not going to have the tools necessary. And to some extent, it is true. If you got hit with a SQL slammer virus, you could reboot your machine, and it basically cleared it up until the slammer worm attacked it again and again and again. Maybe even from some other machine on your same network that you don't have control over. Maybe you blocked SQL connections from your firewall. Maybe your Central University blocks SQL connections from your firewall, from the internet. But then somebody else got the virus somewhere else on campus, and it came onto your box. Most of us have less security. We don't run necessarily host-based security, so those sort of things are important. It also helps you an awful lot with maintaining data integrity in general. You're going to have times when disk space runs out, processor cycles run out, and you want to know this before your patrons do. Otherwise, you end up with a bunch of angry patrons. Why aren't all my print jobs coming through? Oh, because the print queue has been down for half an hour. So you have to have the box tell you before it tells anyone else that there's a problem. And there are also things like policy violations. We have demons in our law school, Some people call them law students. And they do crazy things. I mean, we had a student who decided that they wanted to make threats in a chat room online. Luckily, we had the moderator of said chat room help us track this person down, but at the time it was very difficult. I had to hope that the person was logged into their email account and then look back at the times that people were logged into the email account and the times that the chat manager had listed that this person was a problem, and try to find out who was in the lab at the computer with the IP address at that time. And hope the person was, silly enough to log in their email from the same computer that they were annoying people in the chat room and not from the computer next to them, or just didn't have their email open at all. We were able to catch the person. They were obviously a person with various other difficulties if they were doing that sort of thing. But that's the kind of stuff that you run into. You run into problems with, porn in the labs or other offensive material in the labs that create a legal problem for you as well because of your responsibility for those things. So anyway, I'm just trying to build up a justification here. There is also a business justification because spending 2 days setting up all your servers, deciding what you want to audit, and then setting up those things to be audited may seem like a lot of commitment, or even a week, may seem like a lot of commitment of your time to do so. But once you've done it, you may very well avoid a 4-hour outage for 100 of the people you serve. And so, if your boss wants you to justify the fact that you're spending time on this, there it is. Because, all the professors not having access to something they have access to is a good reason to spend your time looking after this stuff. I also don't want you to think that this is just about your servers. Those of you like myself who are system administrators, hopefully know the machine that has to be the most secure on your network is your own workstation. You have password records, or you have account information, or you have social security numbers. I mean, how many Excel files do you have on your machine with first name, last name, student ID, etc., on down the list? We all have these things because we have to get our administrative work done, and we do it from our own box. So we also have to know that our own box is secure. I don't even have I run Windows. I don't even have the server service turned on. I just avoid, all the Microsoft garbage on my machine. But I know that doesn't solve everything. And I have to be aware when people are trying to tamper with my machine. I want to know. When I've been away at CALI and I come back, and someone has attempted to log on 14 times at my workstation at my desk. And it may be something innocent. It may be, one of the other people in the library had a student worker and they just wanted to get some work done, and David's computer's open. Go use that one. Hopefully at law school they know better than that, at my law school, but we've had problems in the past with students just sitting down at any machine they could get their hands on. So anyway, those are some of the justifications. You can, from a Windows box, of course, monitor non-Windows boxes as well. You can ping other computers and check other port statuses. Performance monitor will do stuff like that. There are other pieces of software. You can write your own little Perl script if you want to just attach to a service and return OK every minute or so. But these kind of things and generating the logs from them, you'll find it very helpful when you're trying to diagnose problems. When I go through what sorts of things should be logged, this is sort of my list. It doesn't have to be everyone's list. It's a place to start. I actually came up with at some point like some 7 pages of registry keys and file locations and whatnot. Really, that's probably excessive, to say the least. But unfortunately, there weren't enough handouts. I thought, well, maybe that many people would show up. So I asked Ken to print out 20 copies. If there are some copies floating around somewhere out there of the handout I had, I can also just email you a copy if you'd like. But basically, there's some common things to log, because these things aren't turned on Windows. You have to do this. Windows system events, things like account logon events. And I don't think you just want the failures. You want the successes too. because you want to be able to know who was logged on at the time, particularly when it comes to your administrators. Now, I make a point on a little paper that is somewhere out there passed out, that hopefully you don't have anyone in the administrators group on a Windows machine anyway, because if you do, they're disguised by that. They're made anonymous. Owned by any administrator is owned by the administrators group, so you can't see who put it there. Furthermore, you can't tell if someone is one of your people in your department who you gave administrative access to because you were in a hurry and they didn't have access when they were installing stuff on some professor's machine somewhere, so you just did it to be efficient. You don't know that they're necessarily that good at keeping their password, so you do want to know that they're specifically the one that was logged on when something happened, because it may not have been the person, but it may have been that person's account that caused the problem. This is particularly a problem for me at my law school because I'm pretty much required to have the domain admins of the central university be admins on all my machines. And I would really rather not them be actual admins because of this problem. One machine was corrupted with viruses. To this day, I still don't know who did it. I assume it was one of the people in server administration at the Central University who didn't have their virus protector up to date on their own workstation and connected to my server for some reason and corrupted a few files, but I'll never know because they're a part of that administrative group. Other things like account management, you have a record of when people changed passwords and who did the password changes, directory service access, object access, policy change. Every time someone goes through and makes a change on the policy on your domain, these are great things to have records of. If you're not generating paper records for all this stuff so you can go back and see who did what when, this is an easy way to save yourself a lot of time. A lot of time of not having people record on paper, I did this to this machine and that to that machine, whatnot. And even restarting. That's usually important. I actually have all my servers set to take a considerable time. I think it's somewhere around 3 days to restart at the Windows login screen. Because if I'm not there personally restarting the machine, I probably don't want it to come back up. Because it means someone restarted who probably shouldn't have restarted it, and they probably did so to take advantage of some sort of feature at restart of their virus or the Trojan software or whatever. So those are some things to think about. I'm kind of going a little more general security talk here, but that's related to this stuff. Things for Windows files, I set all the files that I care about to note all failures of access or execution, all that stuff. I want to know when that stuff happens. I want to know when someone changes permissions or takes ownership. There's a few registry events that are listed on there, things like HKey local machine, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, run. You guys know what that's all the stuff that's not in the run box of your start menu, but gets run anyway. You want to know when something gets added there. You want to know when something gets removed. Again, same problem. A hidden way every time the machine restarts or someone logs in to manipulate the environment without your knowledge. These sorts of things that happen in the background, you want to be brought to your attention when something happens that you didn't personally do or authorize doing. Some system performance things, using performance monitor, the memory used, the memory free, thread counts and paging can tell you a lot of things about the performance of your machine long before you have a problem. SQL Slammer, again, if you were monitoring your SQL processes, you would have seen them balloon. It took actually quite some time, like 3 minutes or so, to really get your SQL server tanked by this thing. And you would have known about it before it got out of hand. Not to say you shouldn't have already had your SQL server updated, but that's a different topic. Again. And network performance. Obviously, there's some tools that William is going to talk about that will be more helpful directly to monitoring what's going on the network itself. But you can also monitor those things on a particular machine. You can see what its experience on the network is. I don't want to go too much longer here, but I do want to talk about reporting methods. And I was told, if I absolutely must, I can switch boxes up here. I use a piece of software
I guess I'm not getting my own signal here. I'm not going to bother. A piece of software called ELM Enterprise Manager. It's put out by a group called TNT Software. If you're interested, particularly for a Windows environment, but if you have a Windows box, you can use it for non-Windows computers by, again, pinging ports and things like that. It's basically a very large event viewing mungification device. It just basically it sits on the box and watches things come into Event Viewer. All those things that I listed before that are good things to monitor, things like account logins and logouts, all that stuff. If you want to know about that stuff, you got to pop open Event Viewer and then go, okay, I want to look at events from this machine. No, I don't want a low speed connection like I had last time. I want a fast connection. Okay, good. Now I can look at this, and I open up the application log, and because I'm actually using system auditing on my features, oh, good Lord, I just opened 5 gigs of log. You guys don't have your default setting to 512K, I think. I think you know better than that, like maybe 5 meg or 50 meg event log, because people can flood your log. People can delete your log. Maybe you want to put your log on a CDR, or maybe you want to put it on a line printer. That's a lot of fun. Reams and reams and reams of paper. But anyway, the point of this program, and of course you could do the same thing with Perl if you have the time, the inclination, or Hayward's expertise. But I'm not very good with regex myself, so I let ELM do it for me. And it watches the event log for things coming in that meet patterns. This has happened this many times. Okay, well, that's a problem. I'm going to send an email to my favorite system administrator's pager. I'm going to send a net send to the domain warning people that the print server is temporarily offline. I mean, you can have it take actions in your absence, like stop and restart services, and then send you a message. Hey, I tried stopping and restarting the service. I'm still getting the error message. Restarting the machine, of course, if you do like I do, that's going to make it actually more difficult because I like to be there for restarts. But all those things can then be automated through that system. Like I said, you can do it with Perl. It doesn't matter the tool you use. But having response to those things and emailing those things to you on the fly, I think will create the result that you want, which is bringing your attention, which is on whatever project you're currently on, off of that at the critical moment to address a problem before your patrons find out about it, or before it causes serious damage to your data because you didn't have time to take care of it and didn't have the tools to diagnose the problem. So because I didn't make enough of those copies, if you want to know some of the things I was recommending up here, I can just like email you a copy of the list I have. If you really want to be insane, I can get to you the copy of my original exhaustive list. But there's a lot of good books out there. There was one that was actually given away at CALI a couple years ago, Bastion servers or hardening internet servers on the net. It was an O'Reilly book. I don't remember exactly what the title was, but you can look, I'm sure you can find that on O'Reilly's website. It's a great book about establishing servers that are visible to the internet, but really are locked down. And it's nice because it goes in stages, and auditing is one of those stages of how hard you lock the machine down. So that's also good. You can also go to www.google.com/Microsoft. You all know about that, right? www.Microsoft. Because basically what they've done is it's a search, a Google-style search of only sites that they consider Microsoft-related or Microsoft product-related. And you can just search for Windows Server Audit. And you can see what other people have done, or recommended Windows Server Audit, or something like that, standard audits on whatever. Those sorts of things. And that'll give you a list of what other people are typically doing. I think we had a question over here.
Yeah, related to software, TNT software, I was just wondering, does it monitor just one machine, or can you set up one machine and hit the other server to monitor all the event viewer logs at one time?
Because you have to purchase, for Windows boxes, you have to purchase a copy of the software, an agent for the software, on every machine that you want to actually parse the event viewer on. Now, if you wanna, you can send those events to all one central machine and parse the whole lot from one machine, but you're going to have to set up that fandangle yourself. TNT software doesn't want it to work that way. They want to charge you $300 or something academic price for installing it on every machine. But you don't have to parse the event log to get a lot of the information you already want. Like I said, if you've got a Linux box, it's your web server that maybe you're running Zope. Is he here? No. Yes. If you're running Zope behind your Apache web server and you want to ping port 80 and port 8080 to see if the machine is live, see if it's responding every minute or so, so you're one of the first people that knows the website went down, you can do that without buying a license for that machine. You just tell it, hey, I've got this machine over here, here's the IP address, give it a ping, email me if something's wrong. And so, I mean, there's other things out there like Big Brother that do something similar, and I've been more or less interested in that software from time to time. That's another one if you like it. But those are system-based auditing tools, whereas William could talk about the network stuff. So, if you'd like. So, anything else before I go?
Is there somewhere I can go? When I use Performance Monitor, I'm confused by benchmarking, where my performance level is where it really should be, because I don't know really where to start.
You know what you do? You set your own benchmark, really. I mean, the bottom line, what you want to do is go to your machines at a time that you know they're under load, but it's an appropriate load. A good time for your web server, like maybe 8:15, but just when people get back to their desk, picking up their cup of coffee. That you do. I assume that all of you force your users to have your web page as their home page, right? Okay. Well, at least you can set it that way at the beginning. That sort of thing. My print server, I would look at the performance of the CPU utilization and the bandwidth and the number of paging files being open, number of pages of memory being open. I would check those things during a peak time of printing, between classes or something, when I knew that there was more people in the lab than usual. And then that way you're not going to be scared on Sunday night when it pages you saying, things are a little bit heavy, because you know what a little bit heavy means at that point. Because what you find on your own machine will be very different what someone else has. We print 1 million pages a year. I have no idea what goes on at other schools. We have 600 students and 1 million pages. So whatever, that may or may not be high for you. So our print server may be under a lot more load than yours or not. Some of you have websites which have sources that people outside the law school, outside even necessarily the legal education community, may use for all sorts of things. I mean, consumers may use some of the information you put up. You'll have a completely different load on your website than I'll have on mine. And so what you have to see as dangerous, I mean, to me, your traffic may look dangerous on my site, and it may be typical for you. So.
Do you run a server for the updates?
I currently don't, because the university claims that they're going to put one in place, and if I put mine in place, I'm just going to have to dismantle it. Right now, I have all the machines, and I go manually every week and go through all the updates. I'm not sure. Software update server will help deliver things that I already know I want, but it's still not going to help me decide whether I want to update a patch or not. I mean, I still have to spend the time to determine whether or not a patch is going to be good for my system or whether or not it's going to bother it. And I end up having to do that usually on almost every machine anyway, because one machine has a SQL server, so I have to make sure that this patch isn't going to mess up SQL server. Another machine is running a Trend Server Protect antivirus. I have to make sure that it isn't going to pose that. Another machine is running my print server software. So one test somewhere isn't going to help me anyway. So it's only going to be a minor help for someone in my position, but I've only got 10 boxes. Maybe you guys have more boxes in your closets than I have. So, anybody else? All right then. I hope that was magical for you. It was for me.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm ready here. I'm Bill Frey from Yale Law School, network manager. And if this doesn't work, my fallback position is to discuss jazz of the 50s and 60s. Primarily John Coltrane, if anybody's interested. What was that? Well, I do too, but I've been getting some resistance from the top. I don't know. What I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to terminal serve into a server back at Yale, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the monitoring and security tools that we use in real time. These are mostly freeware, very cheap shareware, and one piece of commercial software which I bought. I'm going to go through a whole lot of stuff in a half hour, so it's going to be pretty quick. I'll be happy to answer questions at any time or afterwards. No, I think the cat is just drunk, actually. What was that? Okay. First thing I'm going to start out with is Big Brother. Oh, by the way, there was a handout that went around. There was only like 30 copies of it since I didn't expect people to be this interested. If you want more, if anybody wants a copy, just email me and I'll send it to you. Or if several of you from the same school have taken one, maybe you want to share it. This is the Big Brother website that's running on my server. What I do is I monitor each of my servers for connectivity and for whatever specific purpose they are, whether they're a web server, a SQL server, what have you. The first two at the top are file servers. They're being monitored for connectivity. This is a Win server. That's what the name column is for. Got some problems. This is monitoring a conference server and a print server. Hamilton.law.yale.edu is a print server. As you can see, I'm monitoring the printer service on there, so if the spooler goes down, I know. The web board is running an HTTP server. As you can see, I'm monitoring that, and if that goes down, I would know about that as well. It's also running SMTP. Let's see what's going on. Oh, okay. For some reason, Big Brother thinks that the SMTP service is always down on this server. It's very interesting. There's nothing wrong with it. It's running fine. So nobody panic. As you can see, I'm monitoring connectivity, FTP, HTTP, SQL, SMTP, and NetBIOS sessions. The fact that these are green means either they're up by definition or they're down by definition. You can monitor either way. So for example, the FTP service on Highbury is not running, and it's supposed to not be running. If that were red, I would know it was up for some reason and I had a problem. The yellow indicates that Big Brother thinks there's a problem. You take a look at them. Usually there isn't. And the purple, it means essentially the same thing. It just means that Big Brother thinks it hasn't monitored this in a proper span of time and is saying, I haven't seen any change in a proper span of time. Usually everything is okay. This is a really nice piece of software. You can, obviously, because it's web-based, you can see it from wherever you happen to be. And it gives you a pretty quick idea of what your servers are doing and whether they're down. I also monitor my main network switches, looking for connectivity web connectivity and telnet connectivity to them so that I know if I have a problem with any of my main switches on the network immediately. Now, there is also a client service that you can run on your servers with this, which will allow you to monitor such things as CPU time, number of users currently attached, disk space, a whole raft of things. You can set this software up to monitor any NT service that's running on your box. It's pretty easy to set up. Didn't take much brain power even for me. And best of all, I think it's free. It was free a while ago, still is. It's a very nice piece of software. The other major piece of free software that we use is called MRTG. The website is hard to read, I know. I'm the only one that looks at it. What this software is doing is it's monitoring ports on my switches for traffic and giving me a real-time graph of what's happening on those ports. This happens to be a HP 1600 in my server room, and I'm monitoring each port for traffic on into and out of that port to individual servers. This particular server is the student file server, so there's not a lot of traffic on it at this point in time because most of the little monsters are gone. This is the faculty and staff server. Again, looks like most people are on vacation, bless their hearts. Anyway, this is a very nice piece of software. It's a little bit more difficult to set up than Big Brother. You also need to have Perl running. It's not a big deal. It's just active Perl, which just installs pretty nice. But on many occasions, this has shown us very quickly where we've got a lot of traffic on the network, where we've got a bottleneck, where the students are busily downloading music files from Kazaa. At approximately 3:35 every afternoon, if you go to a particular switch on our network and look at a particular port, you can see it's maxed out because they're all in their carols downloading MP3 files. This also is free, as I said. I monitor all my major switches with it, and it's really a very useful tool. NBTSCAN is a command line utility. What it does, I'm just going to show you the output for it. What it does is it maps IP address to NetBIOS name to MAC. It's been very useful when we get reported back to us a problem and all we've got is a MAC address. NBTSCAN will find, if the computer's up, obviously, we'll find it, tell us the NetBIOS name, tell us the IP address. This has been very useful on student subnets. We hand out IP addresses to the students on DHCP, and if there's a problem, we'll get a report back from IT security that this particular computer with this MAC address has got a virus on it. You run NBTSCAN, you'll get the IP address, and you get the NetBIOS name back, and then you can nuke the kid into a heap of malfunctioning rubble. It works out really nice. This is good. This is free. I've used it a lot. FPort. FPort is an excellent tool. It's by Foundstone. Again, it's free also. It shows you the open ports on your box and what's running on those ports. So if you had a virus on there somewhere or a Trojan, FPort more likely than not will show you what it is, where it is, and what port it's running on. And then you can go ahead and take whatever action you need to take. This has proven to be a real time saver on a couple of occasions. It'll work on workstation, it'll work on server, whatever you want to run it against. This is sorting it by application name. You can also sort by path. or by port number. And again, it works very nice and free. Okay. Doing too bad. Another tool by Foundstone is SuperScan. I'm now scanning my server. And you can see it's found some open ports already. The nice thing about this is it seems to scan in much greater depth than other free scanners that I've used. It finds open ports that other scanners don't find. And if you configure it properly, you can scan just ports that have known Trojans associated with them. Very useful, very free. This is another nice tool for network sniffing. It's called Ethereal, which appears to not want to run because of the screen resolution today. Let me just say, it's very nice. One of the things that's nice about it is you can pick the kind of traffic you want to scan, and it's been very useful. For example, I was able to just scan for traffic to and from the ports that the students used to download Kazaa to see what kind of traffic was going on. Yes? Ethereal. E-T-H-E-R-E-A-L. And you can usually find any of these things just by going to Google and searching on their name. They're all over the place and easily downloadable. This is another nice Windows sniffer. You can sniff stuff at the Mac layer just by selecting it. The network layer, transport layer, application layer. I did some scanning for Kazaa Lite, that sort of thing. Let's see if we get anything here. Yep. This is sniffing the traffic going through the NIC card on this server at Yale real time. And you can take whichever packet you're interested in and break it down here and see what kind of data it contains and so on and so forth. Yes?
You mentioned
Yeah.
you talked about the ports.
Mm-hmm.
In this Kazaa, you tell I think the dynamic port hopping. Is that how you do that there? You also said that you looked at Kazaa, I guess layer 7.
Yeah.
Can you explain how it does that? I'm supposed to be looking for signature, right? Application signature. Do you know how to?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. I'm not really an expert on any one of these things. I'm just a person who uses them to figure out.
Even this port hopping or whatever.
It's much more difficult now to trace that kind of traffic. Right. The other problem with things like Kazaa is they can tunnel through port 80. You can go out and buy a piece of software, or they themselves will have built into them natively the ability to tunnel through port 80, and then you're out of luck.
Even the layers, supposedly there's layer 7 monitors. They're claiming that they can dig in and look at application signatures.
They probably can.
They never explain it on their
All right.
signature how it does it.
I haven't gone into that much depth because usually you're talking about something you have to purchase at that point, and the prices on some of this stuff is ridiculous. It's like, go ahead, ruin my network. It's easier. So this is Analyzer. This is a really good tool. I've used it to track down some stuff that's going on the network. No, I don't want to save the captured document. Okay. All right, the piece of commercial software that I purchased. It's called SolarWinds. The initial purchase price was $1,000, and then I think it's $200 or $250 a year for maintenance. It's been well worth the purchase, I think. These are the bandwidth gauges which come with SolarWinds. And again, they will monitor traffic to and from a port in real time. And what we're looking at here is the traffic in and out of the port which connects to the campus spine. So I can see if I start getting calls about, I can't get to the internet, I can't get my email, I can't get this. I can bring this up and see if at least initially, if this port is maxed out for some reason. This is that port I was telling you about before. This is for the student study carrels, and at 3:30 in the afternoon, it'll be up in the red on a typical day. And so when they start calling, if their network connections don't work, the first response is, stop downloading MP3 files. Because I can see you doing it. This has been very useful. The other thing that's been useful is a tool from SolarWinds called Ping Sweep. I can very quickly just scan a subnet. This is scanning the subnet that my switches are on, and I can see if I've got a bottleneck very quickly somewhere by the response time coming back at me. All these request timed out things are just IP addresses that aren't in use. I hope. Now they are. And so there's not much traffic on the network today. In fact, these are the two switches down here in and out of the server room, so there's almost nothing going on. That's been very useful in times of high traffic. Let's see. This is another SolarWinds tool. This is Network Monitor.
Is SolarWinds a suite?
Yeah, it's a suite of tools. You can buy, I think there's 2 or 3 different levels of it, depending on how much you want to pay. This is just showing all my servers. All it does is it pings them every once in a while, make sure they're up. Excuse me. And it tells me how many days they've been up, so on and so forth. I can configure this to send me a page. I can configure it to send me an email, anything like that, and it will tell me, and basically will tell me that there's been a change. Something has happened. It's no longer as it was. Again, it's been useful. Let's see. Oh, there's one other piece of commercial software which I bought and has been very useful. It's called Hyena, and it allows you to manage your NT or 2000 domains. Very, very nice interface. It's easy to add and delete users, create and delete groups, add users to groups. It works much better than User Manager ever did in NT4.0. Obviously, that was pretty hideous. But it's a nice way to add stuff to member servers. I don't even remember how much I paid for this anymore.
Just a few $100.
Yeah, it wasn't that onerous, but it's been very useful and well worth the money. Oh, no, I got to remember what I put for admin. This is embarrassing. This is a pretty nice piece of. It was free. I think you have to pay for it now. You may still be able to find free copies of it out there by doing a Google search. It's called Network Probe, and it shows you what's going on based on various types of protocols. And you see here I've got ARP traffic. These are the number of packets it's seen since I brought it up. And if you let it sit and run all day, it'll continue to collect statistics on what's going on in your various protocols. You can see what's going on based on hosts on the network. Machines which are conversing with each other. Protocols per host, and so on and so forth. I haven't really done anything real with it, but it shows a lot of interesting information. And if it's still free, it's a nice thing to download and have in your toolkit. Come on. Okay. The list of tools, I can email a copy of a page to Elmer and have him put it up, yeah. This is Netlab. It's just a nice little tool for doing finger, whois, time, ping, trace, and DNS, and so on and so forth. Again, it's free. You can find out how long it takes to get to Microsoft. Not bad. Again, a nice free tool. It's been useful. For the real hackers in the crowd, this is Nmap. You can do all kinds of evil things with Nmap. However, it is also a good tool for scanning servers and workstations on your network to see what ports are open. It doesn't necessarily even mean that the person whose machine you're scanning is being evil, but someone has been evil to them. And this is a way to find out, again, what ports are open. We can try a scan here and see if we get anything. It tends to take a little time to run. Those of you who use Linux, it runs much better on Linux or Unix than it does on Windows. The Windows port of it is sort of slow. Well, let's just let it play. Oh, there it goes. And it's found these open ports on my server. And you can do various other kinds of scans, UDP scans, ping sweeps, all kinds of interesting things. And again, it's free. Sam Spade. I just love the name. Is another good free tool for doing these similar sorts of things. I keep using the wrong keyboard here. Wake up, boy. It'll do the same, similar things. It'll do ping, NSLOOKUP, whois, IP block. It'll dig into a IP record. It'll do traceroute, finger, and if I do IP block, it tells me who owns that IP address. In this case, Yale University. It displays the record from the ARIN database. Some of the other tools that it has, it will crawl your website, for instance, and it will look for such things that you might not want to have there, like email addresses. hidden form values. It'll show you images, links to other servers, and so on and so forth. It's been useful mainly for looking to make sure that people haven't put email addresses on an institutional web page that we don't want to be there. So it's been useful for that. Sam Spade, as in the detective. And it's www.samspade.org. This is free. This is free.
The home site for that, samspade.org, also has an online version that doesn't do everything.
Right.
Users who want to do a quick look around for stuff.
Right, that's true. This is Local Network Explorer. It's interesting. You can, if it'll show anything here. Let's see, who might be up? It's hard to do this during the summer because you never know whose computer is up and who isn't. Now let's add a node. I have too many keyboards in front of me. This very nicely will show you everything that's shared on the server or a workstation if you have administrative rights. And this happens to be the print server, so it's showing all the shared printers. I'll change the name of this, by the way. This has been nice on occasions when I've got an IP address but nothing else. I go and I add the IP address to this and log into it and see who the users are who are either attached or logged in locally, and then know a lot more information about what's going on with that particular workstation. This is called Local Network Explorer. It's free. I've had it for a long time. I'm assuming it can still be found from like a Google search or something like that. Okay. This is the latest thing that I've downloaded, and this will be the last thing I show you. This is a beta release of a program called Cain and Abel. Yeah, it's another hacker tool. That's great fun. What you're looking at here is a dump of all the stuff I've saved messing around in IE. So you could see that on anybody's workstation that you had this installed on. Any server that you have or any box that you have administrative rights to, you can add to this quick list. It'll show you the groups, services running, shares, and users defined on that box. It's a quick way to look at them. I haven't used this too much. I've only had it for like a couple of weeks. A class I went to, guy who was running the class showed it to us. Again, at the moment it says it's in beta. It's free, so grab it while you can. The last thing I want to just briefly mention, as more and more of us go wireless, we need to have some way to keep track of what's going on with wireless. And one of the best tools I found so far, if you haven't found it already, is called Nettumbler. I used it in the last semester, put it on this laptop, and basically went war walking around the law school to find who had set up nodes that I didn't know about. It worked very well. As I walked around, you could see them pop up, give you the SSID, and it's a nice tool. You can also put a little antenna on the top of your car and drive around your neighborhood and get free internet access. I'm going to stop there. There's a lot more that I could show you, but those are the basic tools that I've downloaded and have found useful. And as I said, most of them, with the exception of Hyena and SolarWinds, are free, so it won't break your budget. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ethereal is very granular, by the way. If you have any questions about the packet itself, you know it's going to be TCP or TCP or IP, you can pretty much find whatever you want.
Right. Right.
I'm scratching around and I don't have clarity about using SMTP to as my primary mechanism protocol for managing some of this stuff. Because the more and more I dig, I'm worried that by its very nature, you can essentially find it. Could somebody address sort of the larger question of whether it's a good strategic decision to move that way, or whether it makes more sense to go a different direction, have the same effect? Because once you go that path, all of a sudden there's all kinds of tools that can scope out a lot of your stuff.
Right. I don't use SMTP a whole lot. Not because I have thought deeply or long about it, I just haven't. Because I did, actually, I should say that I did find a tool which allowed me to exploit and dig a lot of information out of boxes that I had SMTP running on. So I sort of got leery about it right off the bat.
There's a tool that comes with you buyers compact. They have a whole bunch of server monitoring tools that run on SMTP. And if you make a fairly cryptic, name, and you know that that's being blocked because firewall on the outside world, and I mean the outside world, maybe the central campus, then you're probably going to be fine. But I think if you've got a problem for yourself here on school doing some of that stuff. So you're kind of stuck with some sort of reporting system. And SMTP can give you some of that ability. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on that servers. I'm sure that Dell does design similar for the time.
Those of you who are running, you have not run Ethereal, and any of your users are using FPort or Telnet, I guarantee in about 5 minutes after you put Ethereal on your segment, and you tell somebody, while I'm on, I want to use your FPort or your Telnet, in that same 5 minutes you have to log in as well as the password.
Right. Right. Any of your libraries that are using an Nmap online public catalog, Ethereal will sniff the passwords for that without a problem.
Change the name of SSID.
One other thing about Ethereal will also will sniff with a wireless card, so you can put it on your laptop along with Nettumbler and roam around the law school and sniff wireless packets.
Let people get too worried about the people who don't do anything with the network. I mean, there's all sorts of good reasons to be very worried about, sniffing passwords and playing text and so on. Just the move to a switched network will assist, because you are not going to
Right.
see zip on your switched network.
Right.
Unless you have control of your switch, you put a port into
Right.
promiscuous mode.
Exactly. If you're in a switched environment, you're much safer than if you're still running hubs.
Step one is move to a switched environment.
Right.
It's a little bit of money there, but not much.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now you're back in hot water again.
So how many are SMTP? How many folks are doing that right now? So there's not a whole bunch of things.
Some of the tools we have are using SMTP.
Yeah. A few are. SolarWinds uses SMTP quite a bit. Anything else? Okay, we're out of here.